Hi there, I'm Bobby T, your online video store clerk. Welcome to my show of Viewing and Reviewing, where I pull older movies off the shelf, watch them, and let you know if I believe they're worth your time to watch or not. I'll be searching through my VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray collection to find titles that I think may be interesting to review. Some will be mainstream, but there may be some obscure titles, like this one. In today's episode, I'll be reviewing 1979's Murder by Decree, directed by Bob Clark and starring Christopher Plummer, James Mason, David Hemmings, and a very underused Donald Sutherland. Let me read you the Blu-ray cover. Sherlock Holmes hunts his deadliest adversary, the madman known as Jack the Ripper. London, 1888. When Scotland Yard is unable to stop the gruesome rampage of Jack the Ripper, a citizens' committee asks Sherlock Holmes, Christopher Plummer in the role that won him Canada's award for Best Actor, and his trusted associate, Dr. Watson, a deliciously sly performance by James Mason, to investigate. Now, the brilliant pair must follow a terrifying trail of clues that includes a frightened psychic, Donald Sutherland, a suspicious inspector, David Hemmings, an institutionalized woman, Genevieve Bujold, and the Prime Minister of England, Sir John Gielgud. But even if Holmes and Watson's remarkable powers of deduction can unmask the maniacal fiend, are they prepared to face the most shocking secret of all? Anthony Quayle, Susan Clark, and Frank Finlay co-star in this masterful suspense thriller directed by Bob Clark, A Christmas Story, that both fans and critics have called the most exciting and original Sherlock Holmes movie ever made. Well, the movie opens on the seedy streets of Victorian England. We're treated to the brutal murder of a prostitute by an unknown assailant, and the body count rises. The murders are getting more gruesome, and jolly old England is terrified into submission. The police are baffled, so they do what every fictional Victorian-era police department did with unsolvable cases. They called on Sherlock Holmes. That's right, Sherlock Holmes is brought in to solve the Jack the Ripper cases. Let that sink in for a minute. The greatest fictional detective of all time is brought into the still unsolved mystery of Jack the Ripper that even today's scholars are still debating. Nothing like spoiling your end away within the first 5 minutes of the movie. Nice job, Bob Clark. You know, normally this is the part of my review where I'd start explaining the story, giving plot points, commenting on cool features of the casting and story, but this movie is just blah. I mean, I bought the Blu-ray expecting to see something special. Instead, I was treated to an average whodunit with the very capable Christopher Plummer playing Sherlock Holmes with very few of Sherlock Holmes' patented idiosyncratic tendencies. This is an entirely a fictional telling of Sherlock meeting and solving the Jack the Ripper cases while having nothing to do whatsoever with the Holmes canon. They used the name to sell tickets and nothing more. Steven Spielberg's atrocious young Sherlock Holmes had more pizzazz and intrigue than this crap. Seeing Dr. Watson portrayed as more of an associate than a buffoon in most previous Holmes incarnations was refreshing. Having Lestat be less annoying than usual was also a plus, but the movie was not only slow of pace, but slow of wit. We had very little evidence throughout this too long with too little going on snooze fest to get to the huge leaps in logic that Holmes was making at the end of the final inquisition between three powers to be in British society. Seriously. The story's over at 1 hour and 42 minutes, but continues on for another 30 minutes to tie things up. OMG. Did they need someone to edit this thing? And honestly, I didn't even think Christopher Plummer believed his character was smart enough to come to that bizarre conclusion that he came to in the end. Seeing American director Bob Clark's vision of Victorian-era jolly old England was charming for the first 15 minutes. To be honest, the sets looked and felt like they'd been created for the Muppets Christmas Carol, and I halfway expected to see Kermit the Frog or Rizzo the Rat coming out singing from around a corner at any minute. But the story was a major letdown. The action was completely staged and predictable, and the acting gave new meaning to stiff upper lip without the upper lip part. So, my overall report card looks like this. Does it stand the test of time? Hell no. It took 40 years for this to be released into a digital format, and it took way too long. This movie is a relic, and it felt like it. It's barely a C. It's pretty in Blu-ray, but the film's flat. It's uninteresting and looks as dated as you'd expect from a movie where both Christopher Plummer and Donald Sutherland actually look young. Story. Wow, I give it a D. Arthur Conan Doyle would be rolling over in his grave if he knew his characters would be treated like overpaid script readers. The villain was nondescript and non-threatening. I also don't think even the director believed his villain was the real villain. The hero made so many leaps in logic, I was scratching my head wondering how even Sherlock Holmes would find evidence in something that is completely impossible. The only real positive was Watson wasn't a complete dimwit like he was in older Sherlock movies and TV shows. The cast. You got to give him credit to the director for hiring the dead-on correct Sherlock for 1979 as Christopher Plummer. So for that casting coup, I'd give him an A. Unfortunately, the rest of the cast is pretty forgettable, and I'll give it an average C. James Mason was decent as Watson, but the rest of the entire cast was cut and paste from Overacting 101. Even Sutherland was a complete waste of time. Cinematography was cute. I give it a B for effort, but in a very low B. Like I said, it looked and felt like the Muppets movie, and that isn't a good thing when you're doing a serious Sherlock flick. The music was forgettable. Maybe a C, which is an average for this type of film. It wasn't uplifting, it wasn't horrible, it just was, nothing more. So, overall, I'd give this movie a very average C-, maybe even a D+. And here's my biggest gripe. This film stole the revered name of Sherlock Holmes and placed it into a middling Agatha Christie mystery with a basic and unsatisfying myth. This is not Sherlock Holmes. This is an American director's version of Sherlock Holmes without the slightest hint of being part of the original canon. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in Hollywood storytelling. If I want to write the next great screenplay about Huckleberry Finn, I better damn well study up on and imitate Mark Twain in my language, situations, and mostly sticking to the historical character's mannerisms, or you'll know it's a hack job. That's what I felt like here. They took the awesome Holmes name and wiped their butts with the legend. This was the Porky's director after all, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. So let me recommend much better Sherlock Holmes options for you. The polar opposite to this garbage is the 1976's The 7% Solution, which is of the same era and is also does not hold to the Holmes canon. It too merges the fictional Sherlock with a real-life character in Sigmund Freud. But this film is more intelligent, more atmospheric, and with the sole exception of Plummer being a better overall Holmes, 7% Solution is superior in every way to this crapfest. In 2009, Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. is more fun, far more exciting, and at least Sherlock seemed to be logically coming to conclusions instead of coming up with crazy solutions simply because the writers wanted to make Holmes seem smarter than everyone else without evidence. But the best of the bunch, if you want to watch real Holmes movies and stories, watch the excellent modern-day Sherlock BBC series with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. You might see it behind me here. They stick fairly close to the canon, and it's worth a refreshing modern twist. Each episode is basically 90 minutes-ish, and it goes for 4 seasons, so you feel like you get 13 movies with some stupendous Holmes characters doing spectacular things, making us all awestruck. Or watch the old films with Basil Rathbone in the lead in Victorian England. Better yet, pick up the original Arthur Conan Doyle novels and read them. You'll get much more value than watching this boring movie. There's a reason it took 41 years to release it on the Blu-ray. It wasn't worthy of being released sooner. This movie is really not worth your time if you're wanting to watch a Sherlock Holmes film. There are much better options. Well, sorry. That's it for Murder by Decree. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click the like button below. If you wish to keep up to date on my future reviews, please click the subscribe button below. If you want to purchase Murder by Decree on Blu-ray, and I highly recommend you do not purchase this movie, or you wish to purchase any of the other titles I've mentioned earlier, please follow the Amazon links below, and I'll get a small residual if you're so inclined. As always, if you have any suggestions for movies you'd like me to review, please leave a comment below, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, be sure to help others in need, even if you get nothing in return. Have a great week.